Okay, thanks everyone for coming to this lunchtime talk. We're really happy and delighted to be joined by Merie, and she's going to be doing her talk, the PhD journey, family, friends and research. So take it away, Ula.
Hi everyone. I'm starting just to try to share my screen. Hello everyone, and thanks for having me today. It's really a pleasure to join you today. Thanks, Dennis, for arranging this, and I hope everything now. It's still. I need to give it like this way. Yes. Yeah, for today's presentation, I was thinking about something that could summarizes the whole PhD research in a few slides in 30 minutes, which is like how to dance everything, like 4 years of family and the friendship relations and the research, combine it in these few minutes. But having the chance to be here today and joining you again in level 9, even it's virtually, it's really a thrilled opportunity, and I appreciated it so much. Even though I have presented my work in around 11 conference or symposium around the UK and outside the UK, I haven't really had the chance to present my work in Sheffield School of Architecture. So maybe a few of you know maybe what is my research was about, but I hope in today's presentation I will give you a clue about it a little bit. So I'm trying to highlight something that related to how the family was an integrated part of the whole research, and combining with the friends and all the whole community who was there in Sheffield, and how it's developed and work together to establish my research by the end, like having the thesis by the end of this. So I'm going to start with the research mainly. I try to make it clearer and simple as much as I can. I'm studying the relation between architecture, power, and identity through the university campus as a product of time and the place. The main research was dealing with choosing a state building, one of the main state buildings in Baghdad, and try to focus out on its relationship on establishing a national identity, especially in post-colonial city. So I try to choose a timeline to put my research through, and to make it dense and precise, and to make it achievable to be done in 4 main years. So I give an early focusing on the establishing Baghdad as a capital city during the British mandate, and how it has been developed and shaped in different way to settle a new capital, a modernized capital. So this is the main research context that I was looking at. It's starting in Baghdad 1917s, which was by the end of the World War I, and the breakup of the Ottoman Empire in 19, and how the country of Iraq has been state and formed by the British based on the 3 main Ottoman Vilayet, the Arab province, Baghdad, Basra, and Mosul, develop a whole country. So moving to the League of Nations, when in the 20s, when the British mandate and the constitution of Prince Faisal as a king crown in Iraq, and how stating Baghdad as a capital for the new nations, and getting our whole independence in 1931, and how later on this reflected on the architectural project and the modernization scheme of the whole country. Then moving to the post-independent phase during the 50s, and how this was a challenging stage in the development of modern Iraq when we explored the oil, and it was the main natural resources, and it's flourish our economy and develop the country in different many ways. So it's like three main stages that took the whole story of my research. The city as a state, by focusing on the cities, precisely the context that I'm looking at, it's how the city has been developed and evolved during this time, and how the university as an architecture product was an integrated part of the whole modernization scheme through its different phases. So looking to the state, one of the main state buildings that were essential to develop a national proud and make it a symbolism of the legitimacy of the monarchy by the first here when the monarchy, and later on to the socialist and the Republic of Iraq. So there is two main stages here. That has two main examples of establishing a university, and another one that developed later on after the overthrow of the monarchy system in Iraq. So the concept and the theoretical positioning of this work, perhaps it might be better to speculate that where modernism was not a dissolval of imperialism, it was an active deploy as a way of improving the function of the colonial city, treating the colonists as a laboratory of modernity. Through this argument for Mark Creston, I try to make it more in a different way and build many arguments upon it to understand how the architectural product at that time was being manipulated or manipulated in different way, even by the international architects, to form a national state building and to form a national identity, and how they look at these buildings in their own language, try to reflected their own experience on this newly context and in a country that is still finding its position in between the other countries in the region. So public architecture, official buildings, and the urban design of official places can always be interpreted on ingredient of the establishment of political legitimacy. So the public of the state building could be truly documentative and alive archival for understanding the history and the dynamic of powers that was reflecting their legitimacy and their ideologies by manipulating the architecture as one of the tools to reflect their control over the urban development, and how they reflected their power to the public and try to make it available to the public and visible to the other countries in the region. So the primary aim of this research was being to provide a new perspective to understand how the colonial and the post-independence phase in Iraq have utilized the architecture and the state building and the urban development to enhance a national identity and empowers the nation independence. This was truly designed to look at one of the main state buildings, which is the University of Baghdad, and how was establishing a national university was one of the main objective of each power or each political power who took over the country in different phases. The research question was how the political and the urban, how the political powers through their different ideologies has utilized the architecture and the urban development of the capital city to enhance the national identity and empower the nation independence through the lens of the University of Baghdad campus. Choosing the University of Baghdad campus wasn't like in this way in the first beginning. I tried to take at the beginning different scenarios of choosing different buildings, maybe different political buildings, the parliament or the palaces. But later on, when I tried to address the university from another perspective, it holds between its layers and its narrative many of untold story and undiscovered accounts that need to be focused. So the university was the perfect example to find out these notions that goes behind its establishment. Regarding the research methodology, as historiographical research, I adopted I adopted a qualitative research approach, which give me many new accounts and untold the story that goes behind the scene of establishing the university campus, and how was the notion of the university was going much beyond its image to the public, how the political powers look at it, and how the international powers look at establishing the university, and how the architects themselves manipulated these notions in their architectural project to find out what could reflect all these powers or international images that they want to reflect. So the main qualitative methods was document analysis and official reports from different archival, and conducting semi-structural interviews and site investigations. The document analysis and the official report was mainly could be categorized in two main themes: international data collections and the national data collections. The international data collection was looking to how the international powers or the colonial powers look at establishing the capital itself, how they do understand the culture and the social cultural characterization of the community, how they try to manipulate that in their architectural project. So I need to look to the international perspective, first of all, and later find out the national material, which is like the report, the official report, the laws, the documentation, and all the legislation documents that need to be later to be translated from their original language into English. That was combined with conducting interview and field work, of course, because there is many lack of documentation in the Iraqi archival that need to be figured out, and fill these gaps through conducting semi-structural interview, which was also categorized under two main themes, trying to address this interview with the local historian, not architect, like a professional expert who maybe have lived these times and experienced these times, the notion of the university, even they are very old, or their diaries and the books that they share or the article that they share, to find out what how they translated these notions through their writings. And the other one that conducting interview with the architect and the professional academics, and how they understand the notion of the university campus as a modernization project within the context of Baghdad in this specific location of Baghdad city. So the theoretical framework for this research was going in 8 main chapters. Chapter 1 was the research context and its aim and research method. I haven't have like a separated chapter for the methodology, because the methodology was an integrated part of the whole research, and it divided the whole approach. It was historiographical research, so it combined in all the chapters. It's like interpreting each part individually. So chapter 2, I'm looking to the aspect of the university-city relation at that time, and how the world was working through this relation in many ways, how they understand this relation, and try to find our position within this context, especially in the post-colonial cities. Chapter 3 was mainly focusing to the city itself through the time and the place that I am putting my research with. So I was looking to the city in terms of its political, cultural, social environment, and the economic development that boost everything and transform the city hugely during the 50s. So it also took 3 main sessions to cover the whole period of time that I was discussing within the research itself. Chapter 4 was looking to the university as a state building and the early notion for establishing a university, which was unfinished example of establishing a university in the early notion of building the capital of Iraq, Baghdad, and why this example hasn't got a good finished, or why it's vanished later on, and no one recognized it as a formal university. And in chapter 5, it was like an irony how two of the main pioneer architects were together in the same time, looking to the university as a project that they want to hand in Baghdad, and find it as a way to translate their design approach outside their contexts in US or Europe, which you are going to see who I'm talking about. And this sixth chapter, this chapter 6 and chapter 7, was discussing with the University of Baghdad itself, after it has been allocated to one architect, but how he has been manipulating the project in two different themes according to the power and who was in power at that time, because there is a shifting between in 1958 when the monarchy overthrown to change into republic, and how the architect shifted their approach and their design to make it suitable to the new ideology of power. And of course, chapter 8 was like looking to the university as an example of these three main powers and how it has been tied everything up. Like the conclusion, but in different language. I find it like a final story, the final chapter of my own story that could be expanded later on to include another frames of time and expand the whole research until 2003 and behind what happened in our country. So the first theme that I was looking at is like Alibaba University, which was not neglected example of establishing a university as much it was untold, informally told or designated in the way that it deserved. It was an early attempt to establish a formal university in the early years of establishing the monarchy in Iraq in 1923. So it's just 2 years after establishing the Royal Kingdom of Iraq. And why this university took the attention and how the monarchy looked at this project at the beginning. And of course, because Iraq was still a young and mature government, we hire or the public work department, who was run by the mandate, the British mandate in Iraq, they took J.M. Wilson, General Wilson, to direct the whole project and design it. Yet he called it in his diaries and in his archival material as the University of Baghdad. So he allocated the name for the University of Baghdad, but in his own way, to find it why he choosing this project to and he need to be built. It's a way to build a new cultural environment that the British mandate would be part of it. So they need to transfer the local language into modernization themes by choosing the University of Alibaba as one example. This is the only college here on the left. You can see the only building that has been built of this university, which was like an early attempt to combine the modernization principles and the local architecture from the local architecture of Islamic city, and mainly Madrasa al-Mustansiriya, which could be considered as one of the famous school that could be under a university during the Abbasi Empire, when Baghdad was a capital of Abbasi Empire in its golden age. So how the British mandate to try to manipulate this architectural language to build a new version of identity when the British would be part of it. So they built a new university, and this was only the one building of it that they finished, but it was more beyond its local image. It was a state of power, and they tried to even choosing the name of the university Al-Bayt was a symbolism that referring to the monarchy roots and how they related to the Prophet Muhammad. So they tried to put many versions of manipulation within this theme of building. This is another perspective of the theological college. And this was supposed to be the main building of the central main building for the administration and the library. Yet, due to many political circumstances that it was integrated in this time, the project hasn't been finished because the government was not aware about the rule of the university, and they don't have the suitable formal professors to teach in the university. So they closed the project down, and they ended by 1927. And they haven't figured out where they are going to open a new university until the 15th. So it's like having a 30 years later on until they establishing a national university again. But it was the early attempt to have one of the main ideal projects in Baghdad in this scale in the urban morphology of Baghdad. Moving and shifting to the 15th, when a huge economic development has been discovered in the country because of the oil and how they try to use the sources of oil wealth to transform the whole city. So the manifesto that the government was advertising at that time that we aim to change. But we aim to change everything, but we propose to do it by evolution, not revolution. So evolution, not the revolution way that that it's like a theme that has been in the country or the region in general at that time. So they were looking towards manipulating these sources and try to use them in a better way to build the country on nations and have its own identity. So it's like one of the main material that I found in Christian Science Mentor. It's architects build a modern Baghdad. At that time, Baghdad was an international recognizable city that many of the well-known architects were looking at a chance to build their masterpiece building in Baghdad. You can see here in this map that each location of Baghdad has been allocated to famous architect. Le Corbusier was there, Sergio Ponti, Alvar Aalto, Doxiaz's project was also there, and Frank Lloyd Wright, and in addition to Walter Gropius, and who has been like, as they describe his project, the gem project, because it was the largest urban development project, the University of Baghdad. This one here, it was the project that has been allocated to Frank Lloyd Wright, supposed to be the Opera House. As you can see, this is like the peninsula that has been allocated to Frank Lloyd Wright to design his opera house, and this is the location that's supposed to be the project that allocated to the University of Baghdad for Walter Gropius. Yet it was maybe a different theme how they look to this project and the location within Baghdad context. They said, and many research that I have been discussed and reviewed in my research, they reviewed and argue how Frank Lloyd Wright tried to take this project out of Walter Gropius because he found it that he can manipulate the whole landscape and this environment to build a larger Baghdad theme project. So Frank Lloyd Wright tried to contact with the king itself. This is the young king that we during the 50s, and they tried to incorporate it with him and give him his word to build his own version of the University of Baghdad. And they tried to make it a one large Baghdad project as a central cultural center for the whole city. The opera house and how he's going to connect it with his masterpiece university. And the urban language that he chose was something different. And they tried to make it a connection and a reference to the round city of Baghdad, which was like one of the earliest attempts to build a capital in Abbasi Empire. They built it from the scratch. It was a round city with its 4 main gates. And how he tried to get this reference, a historical reference, to build his own version of the university. So he was arguing that we had a great opportunity there to demonstrate it, that we are not destructive but constructive, where the original factors that built the civilization of the world aren't concerned. We are not there to slap them in the face, but to honor to them. He was like arguing with his architect in his office how he can use this project to show how the architecture could be reflected, the historical references, and connected it with the cultural and social norms of different cities. So he was a big fan of the project and tried to get this project out of Walter Gropius. This was one, he demonstrated and drew out many paintings to demonstrate his theme of the university and how it would be like having these circular forms and the gates in this way and connected with the opera house on the other side of the river, and even showed in the many activities or symposiums in US to show his own version of the University of Baghdad. Yet, the project was by the end allocated to Walter Gropius and TAC because of many family relation that connected Walter Gropius with a former student for him who was studying in the US, Nizar Jawdat al-Ayyubi, which is like the son of the prime minister of Iraq at that time. So it was like political, family relation, social relation that bring Walter Gropius to Baghdad and give him this chance and make him more related to the power and to the power and who gets the power to decide the project to whom goes. So Walter Gropius make a huge chance of this project, and they try to make sure that he is going to get an advantage of it. Yet, Walter Gropius has two main versions of the University of Baghdad. One was behind the scene and how it was the hidden narrative of the university that later on just vanished after the revolution when the monarchy overthrown and Iraq transformed into republic, and another government shifted the approach of establishing a university. In this version, Walter Gropius was trying to connect the university with the local Islamic scale and how he tried to make a reference to the human scales and build a social community environment with different location of the masterpiece of the buildings. It tried to identify the local materials and make a connection with the historical architectural details of the area, while also imposing his new approach of the modernization. So it was a different way to reflect the university campus. Yet, the revolution is here, and another power came into, another ideological and power come into control, which overthrown the monarchy and turned Iraq into republic. And in this way, the new republic was looking at different notions of architecture to reflect the country's new development, looking to the high-rise building as a way to translate these notions. So they asking, and there is many argument that I wrote in my research, how the political powers that symbolized by its General Abdel Karim Qasim, who is laying down the University of Baghdad campus, how he was advertising the project as one of the main projects of the new republic and the revolution's achievements, and how he has met Walter Gropius and asked him to transform the university project to make it a reflection of the new government approach, and also to create a new landmark in the city of Baghdad. So he asked him to include many individual buildings with significant architectural features to be understandable and could be seen from different area in Baghdad skyline, and specifically from his own building in the Ministry of Defense here in this part of the city, at the university here. He was looking to look at the tower, specifically a tower could be seen from his office in the Ministry of Defense and refers to the university. So he was looking at something else to reflect the architecture of revolution. And this was the final proposal that had been suggested by Walter Gropius according to the suggestion that have been provided by the new political powers and the Republic. This was the master plan of the university, and this was the main tower, which rises around 19 floors, and nothing else was around the master plan of the building for many years. Here, Walter Gropius is standing alone, proudly in front of the main gate of the university, which is this one, the main gate of the university, and this is the tower. And look to the environment that was surrounding the university tower. You can understand what was the local or the urban development in this stage. It was still a farmland, nothing to be built around, and outside the city itself, urban development of the city itself when the tower finished in 1963. And this until 1966, and you can see is still just the tower at this one. So it's constructed according to the recommendation of General Abdelkarim Qasim, who want to see this building from his office in the Ministry of Defense, as I said before. And he is Walter Gropius again standing in front of his only building that he saw in the university, the completed one. So what was there? I stood my research until 1968 because another revolution has been come and asked Walter Gropius again to revisit the university project and expand it and move another building to the master plan of it until he died before the master plan or the university project itself finished, and how this could be interpreted later on to be expanded in another version until today. So the main thing that was looking to the problematic nature of architecture in the context of capital city and post-independence city, and how the modernization architecture within this social, cultural, economic, political environment has been manipulated and works. The notion of the university as a state building and how various political powers and their constructing identity have negotiated and mobilized the architecture of the state buildings, and how the university could be seen as a window of change everything, not just the architectural product, but also the social, cultural, economic, and even the political scene of Baghdad. So, of the contribution of this research, I can summarize it in the research contributes to identify and argue the main theories and movements that impacted and influenced the architecture of university during the 20th century, and how the main characteristic has shaped and re-identified the University of Baghdad. This is the main University of Baghdad entrance in current time, in this image. And second aspect is regarding the research contribution to the context of Baghdad itself, how we developing a new account of investigating that documenting different disciplines as aspect under one main subject. And the research through its integrated research methodology was supported by the interpretation of different resources, material, language, has bounded various sources, discipline, and the fragment account into one main theme. I was like transcripting many interviews, and at the same time translating different political documents to identify why the project of the university has been delayed until the 15th and to frame it in different ways. So it's like still a political negotiation before it's going through to the architect and how they reflected upon their discussion before goes to the architect and discuss what they think about the project itself. So it was a combination between political documents, social and cultural articles that all reflected, and they tried to combine it with one main project. So this is the contribution of the research at this point, which allow me to show you how this has been stand here, like this, the story of University of Baghdad from this time to 1968. Yet another thing has been changed during the 90s, which the university has been divided into 10 university, other universities. Part of it has been allocated under the name of Saddam Hussein University, which was the formal the formal resident president of Iraq until 2003, and how the American, when they occupy Iraq and the U.S. invasion of Iraq in 2003, they controlled the university for a long time, building concrete walls against its buildings, try to control its safety and security system, removing the statue of Saddam Hussein, building different flags and images of other people and political influences people, and how ISIS also tried to use the university campus as a mirror to their ideology by manipulating some students to advertise their themes within this campus. So it's worth to be studied maybe in a future research if I have the time for it. Yet all this journey, it was not like a single thing that has been done directly. Many things happen between these years. And I can see honestly that the confirmation review report that I submitted in the first year wasn't the same case or wasn't the same paper. So it developed gradually, and year after year, when I figure out my material and the document that I found within the libraries, it gave me a clue how it guided my research. So I was finding the material and I tried to connect them, integrated them, and discussing them within the theme, within the one theme that I want to look at. Within that, I try to disseminate my work, as my supervisor always say. Even I haven't published a formal paper about my research, but I disseminated my work in 11 research, like small conferences and symposium, and also work through having my fellow in higher education recognition. And in the same time, I have a baby, so it's like a family support. After an unfortunate miscarriage, I had another chance to have a baby. And at the same time, when I delivered my baby, it was just 2 days after I submitted my research. So I submitted my research. I went to the hospital and had my baby that time. It was like like a dream. Everything I finished in the same times, and also the support and the kind relation, and I couldn't describe how I was lucky to have a friend to support me all the way long. The community and the friendship that I got, it's like unforgettable relations that I hope it will maintain in the future. Having the chance to be surrounded by lovely people, always a blessing thing. And this is me after I discussed submitted my Viva, which was with typos. So I have nothing to do when I finish my Viva discussion. And you can see my smile here. I was like, yeah, I finished, I done. I have nothing to do else. And this is my lovely desk here. You were not there at that day. And this is the end recognition that I got from my lovely supervisor, Florian Cossack, who wrote to Dr. Ola as a memory of a wonderful journey with you. This is one of the main resources that I use during my research. I always asking to have it from the university library, especially. And this, I would like a chance to thank Chris Everest. He was a technical university library in Western Bank Library, and he was a very helpful person to me. He even contacted me many times asking if I need this material or this material, or this could be fit to your research or not, because my research was basically dependent on archival resources. So this book was always I tried to get it from other universities, but I got my own copy by the end of this journey as a gift from my supervisor. So yes, working for this research was an extremely life-changing experience. And small things within this research time, I think small things matter really, like small coffee, small sitting, chatting with people who maybe share the same situation with you. It was always a supportive thing, and talking loudly about your concern or even about your research would help to figure out what you are looking at. So maintaining the mental health, the social community life was something I really appreciated about the PhD experience. So happiness having a PhD, of course, when you finish this journey. And I hope you have a lovely journey within your research in the art tower. This was the last time I saw level 9 in the art tower. Yes, it was an emotional moment for me. And this slide, I think I end my presentation. So thank you.
Thank you.
That was a lovely presentation, and really, really interesting as well. I've never learnt about the university in Baghdad. I thought that was so interesting. It's a sort of reflection of political powers and legislative powers as well. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to mic off or raise your hand and ask a question. If anyone wants to jump in first. Oh, Maha, have you got your hand raised? You go.
Hi, Victoria.
Maha, did you have your hand raised? Maybe not.
Just until Maha speaks, I just wanted to say, Ola, I've known you for so long. I've never known so much about your research, and it's just so enlightening, honestly. And I'm from Iraq, and I studied in this amazing university. I know quite a lot about it, but I learned so much from you, and you really are an inspiring, amazing person. So honestly, well done, and thank you so much. That was really, really interesting.
Oh, thank you. Much appreciated, you, sir.
Well
thank
done.
you.
You've picked me up when I was drowning in like last minute moments. We've been through so much. It's been crazy. We miss you so much.
Oh, dear. I miss all of you, really. It's hello. Hi, Ali.
Just to say, Ola, you're so popular. I feel like we all have such beautiful, I think just you know, just to piggyback on what you just said, like, I feel like it's so wonderful to hear about all of your research. I'm so sorry I came late, but I also just wanted to say, like, Ola has been, like, you were like, how do you say, like, the permanent, like, whenever you would encounter Ola, she's always smiling. She's always sort of like
thank you.
cheering us up. And so I feel like you are our mom in so many ways. Like, yes, you have your other children, but you are also our mom. You know what I mean? So first, it's just great to see you. I love it. But I have a question. I wanted to ask, like, you know, what are the ways that you talked about how this PhD was sort of a life-changing experience, and I know that you were also teaching even before you came to the School of Architecture.
Yes.
Like, maybe could you tell us a bit, I'm sorry if I missed this, but like how your experience at the School of Architecture has informed the way that you're now teaching, that you're now thinking about, these politics and everything.
Well, it's opened a new approach, really, a new perspective in my mind. Normally, the architecture here, they try to avoid talking about the politics in direct way and try to navigate this discussion around, but not in this like direct position. So encountering this, and even during my interview process, I figure out why even my teacher, my senior academic, who used to taught me in undergraduate, they try to avoid this kind of discussion and questioning your like why you are talking about that, what you are potentials from this kind of discussion. They are not familiar with the interview process, but actually in the Sheffield School of Architecture, and because it's part of the social faculty, like engaging with the many lecturer and events within the school, it's opened my mind towards understanding the broader aspect of the architectural study. It's not just about the buildings, it's about the humanity and the people who are going to live within this context. It's not just about the current time, it's about the future and the past. So Sheffield, transformed my way of looking to the architecture. And it's also helped me in engaging much more within engaging with the activity of teaching in the school. I have the chance to tutorial some reports and with the master student and the undergraduate research with my supervisor and with the other academic in the school. And also I was tutoring in the ethics and integrity workshops for around 3 years. So primarily the ethics things, because we don't have this kind of topic within our university, even in the postgraduate research, we don't talk about the ethics in the research. So when I was tutoring these, I still trying to impose maybe a module in the future within our department here at the University of Babylon to make this achievable and understandable to our architectural student. What is the importance of ethics in research? How the architecture may be manipulated by the powers and the dynamics of power. It's not just about the political powers, it's even about the powers of between genders, between the professors and their students. There is other kind of powers laying down within the academic atmosphere. So yes, studying outside, it's something broadening your mind. And I would always have this kind of feeling that I need to reflect on that later on our universities. I'm still struggling with that because they might be difficult to impose new things, but maybe in the future they will be more open towards changing.
No, that was a lovely answer. Maha, do you have a question? I think you've got your mic.
Oh, hello. I just wanted to applaud Ula for her lovely presentation. I can relate to many of the aspects she was talking about, especially her social life in Sheffield and how it broadened her ideas and imagination and how it affected her way of teaching. It was, I can relate to all of that. I just wanted to ask her, I know as a researcher, she, all of us has faced many challenges, and I was just wondering what was the most challenging situation that she has to go through, and what did she do about it?
There's not just one, actually. It was.
Let's try to pick one or something remarkable.
Yeah. Well, if I try to make it more workable for the research itself,
yes.
For the PhD researcher, and I think many of PhD students, they got the struggle at the first year to understand, precisely for the international students who come from different contexts, different cultures, try to understand what their expectations from this study and what their supervisor expects from their work. And I think it could be taking around 3-4 months to know that you are working in different contexts, because the way that we studied in our country, maybe it's more like spoon-feeding approach, while in studying outside outside universities and a school like Sheffield, it was like, do it by yourself. You choose. It is your decision a whole way. Like Florian always and Joe, I appreciated their input with the research. They were discussing sometimes something. I just look at them and I try to in a way to connect it with the research, but they give me different notions and discussion to think about it. Something goes behind the research title and the subject, but it's later on. It's like something that you build on it and widen your research perspective. I read a lot, which is I wrote 2 chapters. I couldn't put them within the research by the end because I have 450 pages, and that's it. That's enough. So I removed 2 chapters that I wrote in the first year. They said enough, and this is not related now in this research. I changed the topic itself after the confirmation review, which is something that you can do, anyone can do. And I still remember a specific moment that changed me and put me like, you need to finish it. You need to finish. It was our friend Viva Reem, and it was a year earlier than me. So when she did her Viva and finished, I was looking to think, can I do it in a year later, in the next year? Can I write it, the whole research, and formulated my drafts in this way? And actually I can. And it's something like, I couldn't put it like in this way, but like do a timeline for yourself and a milestone, and this is the end. I need to finish in this time. It's really something you can do. You push yourself and try to be always positive toward this achievement. Surround yourself with positive people and discuss your research with them friendly and openly. Don't worry. We all have the same situation here. We are students. We are struggling. So why not sharing our worries loudly and not keeping these worries just for us? It's really a motivative environment, and I can like always maybe ask my student in the future to do that, to keep yourself positive and surrounding yourself with lovely people.
It was lovely to be around and see you going through this challenging time, Ala. Best of luck for the coming days, and best of luck for all the other PhD students and undergrads and working in Sheffield. I wish you all the best. It was good. It was a very diplomatic answer, Ala, and I really can relate to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow.
No, everyone's so nice. Yeah, that was a really nice point as well about students supporting each other and speaking to each other, which I think resonates quite a lot at the moment as well, whilst we're all still quite far apart as well. Is there a question in the chat? So Yali, she said it's nice to see you again. I personally.
Oh, nice to see you. Hello.
And thank you so much, and all the best to your family. I have a small question that's maybe more about the research of the university in Baghdad. In a contemporary context, as it's gone through lots of changes as the politics has changed, does it still have the same sort of civic presence and represent that national identity, or does it feel quite fragmented as it's gone through periods of change?
I can say it may like disappear at a moment between time to time, but it will be again reflected on the surface again when the political environment has some struggle, and we always have these within the years that since 2003 and even before that, we haven't have a real safe or stable political environment. So the university, and because of the student body, they are young. They have the feeling that they need to change. They have the chance to change. Even in October 2019, I think the university student led one of the greatest revolutions in Baghdad, and they took it over to the whole city. So the university was like the trigger point, and its urban environment as a campus within Baghdad, it's a strong position. The landscape and how it's like have a good environment that they control by the security and this, it's just a campus. It's not like Sheffield University. It's a campus with gated. So it's still a good environment to discuss, to share public or political worries. And even the political figures, they use this environment to advertise or publicize their, maybe during the, I miss the word sometimes, sorry, but during like changing, transforming in power, they use the university to advertise their position, and using the student body to maintain this relation and disseminated it between the public. So it is still having a special place, yes. maybe need to figure out in the future researcher.
Yeah, that was a lovely answer. Thank you. Paula said, I thought the history of corruption in handling architecture projects in the Middle East is somehow new. However, from your presentation, I figured out it was much more older, from the 1950s, as you mentioned, to give it to Gropius instead of Wright. And she said, thank you so much for a great presentation.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Paula. Yes, actually, yeah, it's even earlier than the 15, because it's still the region was under the British mandate, so the colonial powers and the post-independent phase and until even the revolution, there is still a debate whether the people or the people, local people in Baghdad context or in Iraq generally, they said the 1958 was a revolution or a coup, because they thought that the overthrow of the monarchy system was a coup rather than a revolution. And there's another perspective who think that it's a revolution because it's changed the political situation, and it was happening for a good will to change the people's life. So even this discussion and the norms behind it was a little bit tricky to manage, especially when I talked to my interviewees. So some of them, they were looking to the revolution as a revolution, changed the environment, and the university was one of its big achievements. Other, they think like it's a project that has been stolen from the monarchy system to advertise their new political approach and policy over the urban context of Baghdad.
Yeah, lovely answer again. There's a few more messages in the chat as well, being very complimentary.
Oh, thanks for everyone. I tried to read all of them.
Does anyone else have any final questions before we wrap it up? I don't think anyone has got any more questions. So yeah, we'll close it there. But thank you, Ula, so much for.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, it was
to join you again, even virtually. Just seeing these like familiar faces took me there. I really miss Sheffield a lot. And I just want more like. I would like to advise all of you to enjoy every minute of your research, even in the postgraduate, in the undergraduate. It will be something in the future like a history and part of your CV, just you write it in your CV. So make sure that you use these minutes until the maximum. It will be something to keep you in your mind by the end. Thank you. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ola. I took a screenshot. Sorry, I keep jumping in. I'm so sorry. I took a screenshot. I'm going to tweet about it, Ola. So good to see you.
Great to see you, Victoria. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis, for organizing. Thank you, Suhas, for making this possible.
Thank you for joining.
Thanks.
Thanks so much for coming, everyone.
Bye.
See you later. Take care.
Thanks. Take care.